Now, it was a certain former Prime Minister who spoke nostalgically about warm beer, old maids cycling to Holy Communion and long shadows on cricket grounds. Well, I can't speak for the maids or the beer, but cricket isn't all about village greens or, come to that, summer weather, thank goodness. It can be played anywhere in any weather, and there's apparently a message for Cameron's big society. It's being played right here under a soggy Big Ben today. To explain all, we have Home Office Minister Crispin and none other than Sir Ian Botham. Welcome to the programme. Ian Botham, what is it you're doing? How does it work?
It's very simple. There's so many of these multi-games areas around the country that get used, we believe, as an average of 1 hour per day. And so they're dormant for long periods of time. And what we're trying to do is bring in a very raw, basic level form of the game of cricket, which is needs six people to play in one of these confined multi-games areas, or a gymnasium, or a village hall. It can be played anywhere. You play it in this area. You rotate all the time. So everyone bats, everyone bowls, and everyone, more importantly, umpires the game when they're in the red zone as well as fielding. So it's total involvement, and it's done and dusted in an hour. And we're trying to get away from a lot of kids' impression of cricket is that you stand at fine leg, you're there for, I don't know, most of the day, you don't get a bowl, you go out to bat.
Well, isn't that true, Ian Botham?
Well, I know that's the advantage of being an all-rounder, you see. And we wanted to actually show them that you can have this quick. It's raw. You don't need pads. You don't need all the equipment. You need a bat, a synthetic ball, and a compound bat. And it's cheap and easy to do.
So it's making it more accessible, basically, because of course, as well as what you said about standing there for hours, waiting, you also need quite a big space to do it, and this will work against that. Yeah,
and also what we're trying to do is give opportunities to people that wouldn't have an opportunity. We've just had guys in there this morning who've never picked up a cricket bat, and within 15 minutes they know the rules and they're loving the game, and that's what it's about.
Is that because it's been seen more of a posh sport that so many people haven't picked up a cricket bat, rather than in a sort of egalitarian sport in the way that football is seen?
Yeah, possibly, but I think also the fact that you do need a big area, you need 21 other guys or thereabouts to play, and you need all the equipment, then you need 2 umpires. It does take some organisation. This doesn't.
Crispin, what's not to like about this?
There's not very much not to like about it. And what's quite good for the prison service is obviously it fits into the kind of spaces that are available in prison. But Ian alighted on what I think is the real benefit of this, which is actually the umpire's role in this. All the players rotate round, and it's actually the social effect of people then having to take responsibility for their decisions, and then taking decisions themselves and receiving decisions and learning to accept them. Actually, there's a rather exciting, I think, social ethic about this, all of which sits with the ethics around cricket as well. And so it is. I think there's a big potential benefit here for offenders as well as society as a whole.
So you think it will actually go as far as helping to rehabilitate offenders by, as you say,
not on its own, but what it does, if you actually have an activity in custody where people, we do insist that people make time for physical activity in custody. If you've got an activity that they're going to want to get engaged with, and then has a positive social benefit in terms of the relationships that they make and have to make through the game, then so much the better.
Do you agree with that, Ian? Could you see it having those sorts of positive effects in the way that you've described it, both of you, in terms of sharing the different roles and then someone having to adjudicate, even in a prison environment?
Yeah, it's unique as well, because you're playing individually for yourself, but you're playing with 5 other guys, so you have to police it as well as play. So you understand there's no point in actually thinking, I don't like that guy over there, so I'm going to give him out today. Because by the time the other 5 have dealt with you, you're going to be in a minus situation. So it gives you a bit of that. It's discipline, but it's having fun with a bit of discipline. And the other thing is just, I would much rather get the kids off the streets and the street corners and get them into this, because it's instant. As I say, you play for yourself. You put your score in on your iPhone or your BlackBerry or whatever, and it goes to the national grid, and then it'll come back and say, you are now number 2 in Westminster, you're number 36 in Middlesex, and you're number 200 in the UK. And that's how we see it going. And then it'll it'll build up, and then you'll have regional finals. It's the idea of it. It'll expand, and I think once the bug once they get the bug, I think the kids will go for it.
Really? So you think it'll take off in that sort of way? I mean, not being a cricket expert myself, I mean, it's interesting just seeing you sort of define it in those terms, catching on in new media and spreading all around the country.
Well, I think it will, and I believe it'll end up being international, not just played in this country. There's talk about it in Australia already. There's a lot of interest over there. It will go global, and I think it's magnificent. I think it's a great form. Everyone wants to be world number one.
Well, Crispin, but could this be used in other ways? I mean, you've talked about rehabilitating offenders. I mean, presumably sport is played to some extent, isn't it, in prisons? Why do you think this will make a particular difference?
Well, I think what's interesting about this is it can adapt to the kind of spaces that are available for physical activity in prison, and then you've got the rules that surround it and the responsibility that the people playing the game have got to take up. So that's why I think it'll work can work in custody. Obviously, every prison is different, and every prison governor is going to have to make a decision about what resources he's got available to spend on this kind of thing, and whether it stacks up against the other things he wants the prisoners to do. But Ian is right. I think that actually it's much more interesting is the wider benefit of this, actually getting cricket into parts of our community where it isn't before. And as a cricket fan, I'm just hugely appreciate
I bet you do. Well, before you go off with a bat and ball, Ian Botham, something slightly, well, it is related, but not quite on this bent. But will England beat South Africa in the Test?
Yep.
Good. That was nice and short. Very good. And for Crispin Blunt, this is unrelated, but it is obviously the current story today. Your reaction to the same-sex marriages and the Church's response?
Well, I think the coverage I've seen before today of the position of the Church of England is the Church of England seems very split on this issue. And I think I was speaking this morning on this. The government has come forward with proposals which are designed to protect the position of all the churches, that they will be prescribed from offering same-sex marriage. I think that position may have some legal difficulties of its own, but certainly I don't think anyone would tolerate a position where religions are being forced to conduct same-sex marriage. It's got to be a matter for them. What the government is proposing is around the state recognising equality of marriage, and I think plainly inequality these days is not acceptable.
Well, Crispin Blunt, thank you very much. Oh, Ian, did you want to say something on this?
Just one thing I will say about the England-South Africa series, if I may. Just something for you to all think about. The thing that will be the highlight for me is you've got the two best bowlers in world cricket, Dale Steyn and Jimmy Anderson, and they'll be competing against each other. And I think that will be fascinating in itself.
All right, Ian Botham, Crispin Blunt, thank you both very much.